Hello everyone. So, um, I wanted to talk about about what it was like for me being in the closet, having to hide from the world. So, I made a video. It'll probably debut sometime during the summer about um, my journey coming out and living out and that kind of thing. But I really wanted to talk about before that, while I was still holding it all inside. So, um, my dad was kind of one of these macho boomer guys. His greatest stories were they always involved him having sex with women, and and I knew inside that I wasn't exactly attracted to women. In some respects, I was, but there was a lot in my own mind that I wouldn't even admit to myself, you know. And and my mother was just a wackadoo, so But I kind of, between my dad and kids at school, I kind of figured, it's safer for me to hide this aspect of myself. At that time, I thought it was just a part of me. And I had thought on occasion, well, am I gay? Because for the longest time, I didn't, there was no word transgender. It was just cross-dresser, transvestite, this kind of thing. That's why these terms are frowned upon. Why the trans community prefers transgender. Because it doesn't have all those built-in negative connotations. Connotations that have been built up over the, you know, past centuries. Because transgender people have always existed. So I I was definitely trapped, and when I got out of high school, I said, okay, I'm going to explore this because my desire to be female it kept growing. It was like the universe ever expanding. And the more I explored, the more of myself I found. And so it was this weird kind of tug of war. And um, in many respects, I liken my own journey of being in the closet as being like Mr. Spock from Star Trek. He was half Vulcan, half human. And those two sides were kind of always at war with each other, pulling away from each other within him. And it's important to understand that it wasn't until I had been on HRT for a little while, so just the past couple of years, or the past year or so, that I knew what I wanted, but I didn't think that I would ever achieve any of my goals in terms of, I didn't think I would ever look feminine. And so it was kind of this, oh, I'm just going to be, an ugly chick. And and so, that can, in your own mind, it can kind of limit you. But anyway, but I always felt like I was of two halves, and they were kind of at war with each other. What I didn't realize, and what I figured out later, was that one was the persona, and the other was me. So I was constantly fighting against this sociologically imposed persona that I felt I had to affect to just keep myself safe. And that's very detrimental for your mental health. You can imagine how much it limits you, you know, um, creatively and in so many ways. Um, when I looked like a dude, when I thought I had to, I dressed down. I always had breasts, so I always had to wear stuff to cover those up. And and now it's like, I can just walk around like this and be perfectly happy. But yeah, and that's really what it was like. And there was a time when I was like, I wish I could just kill the part of me that was female. Not, of course, not realizing that, well, that was me. That was the real human being trying to punch her way out of this cocoon of fake imposed masculinity. And the nice thing about coming out is that all of that crap that I affected as attempting to be a male, it all bled away. I could be vulnerable. I didn't need to be tough anymore. I could just be me. And I've always been really sensitive. But I got picked on a lot, and so I put on this kind of tough, mean, I'm going to kill you kind of persona. And I'm still kind of tough, you know. Ask anybody who's met me in real life. But it's not, I'm sorry I'm sniffling. I've been doing it all day and I don't know why. But yeah. And so the character of Spock, I think helped give me a degree of clarity. Spock eventually, after many difficulties, he embraced that both sides of himself. That kind of turning point was in the motion picture where he did the colon R, where he purges all emotion and he's just total logic, and he's that way through the whole movie until he melds with V'ger and he realizes, that he is a complete person. That these two sides are, for him, that human side is an aspect of him. It's a part of him. And he learned to embrace it. For me, I knew that one side, eventually I figured out one side was me, the other side was the affectation, the face that I put on for the world. And so I finally embraced me. I hope this doesn't sound too after school specially, but sometimes life just goes that way. So I just roll with it. But yeah, I was in the closet for 35 years. Largely. With the world, at least. Some people knew, but most didn't. And some of the hardest things that you deal with is the losses you suffer, the people you lose. But it's between them or me. They chose themselves and their own ignorance over me, which means they didn't give a shit about me. For them, it's just about them. And I wasn't willing to, one, let them have that much control over me, and two, I wasn't going to let them ruin my life any more than they already had. So they fell away. And I maintain a degree of hope, perhaps foolishly, that I will find people who can embrace me and love me, for me, you know. And it's not easy for trans women. We get a lot of shit. And yeah. I made a video on my last channel where I talked about how trans people are the most badass fucking people on the planet. Because we go through absolute hell. And we face insurmountable odds. We face discrimination. We face potentially murder, you know, getting beaten up, abused by just random people on the street and by government and by, you know, everybody. And with the understanding that you could die, we face that every day. And we go out and we just live. We try to. And that's all we want to do, is just live. You know, we're not pedophiles. We're not rapists. We're not going to attack you in the bathroom. You know. So, yeah. I wish that everyone on this planet could be transgender, at least for a while, so you could truly understand how hard it is. I mean, I don't think doing it just for a while, because then it's just a game. If it's life and death, like it is for us, you know, it's a different scenario. If you could be transgender for 40 years, you know, let's say our lives were long enough, that would be optimum. Because that's what it's like. And it doesn't end. You're always you. And you're always fighting against this ignorance. And some of the most dangerous people on the planet are politicians. That's why I talk so much about politics. And why I constantly tear down right-wingers. Because they are evil. They are the bastards who go out there and program people to hate us. You know, because these right-wingers, they don't want anyone seeing the crimes that they commit, so they make up, you know, they find marginalized people who have no power in society, and they vilify us. They turn us into some kind of, you know, gods that have all of this power that we can reign over all of you. But it's just a fantasy. It's bullshit. It doesn't exist. You know? So, yeah. But I tell these stories because it's important to me that, one, transgender people, my fellow trans people, non-conforming, you know, everybody feels like they're not the only ones. Because I think, at least certainly for me growing up, I felt like I was the only one. You know. And now it's a little different. You know, there are more people out. The media is actually paying attention to us and is now favoring us to a degree. So, yeah, the situation has changed, thankfully. And my sincerest hope is that the people who come after me can benefit from my struggles, my fight, everything that I try to achieve. And I do have lofty ambitions, believe it or not. Right now I'm considering fighting the system. Systemic transphobia. Gatekeeping. and it's not easy. I don't really have any help from even transgender people, um, people whom could make a difference, who have some degree of power. So it's hard, but you know, the more of us are out, the more of us are just living our lives, the less we can be denied, because we will be seen, and through that we will hopefully become better understood. People won't be irrationally afraid of us or irrationally hate us. I mean, that's always going to happen, you know. We're kind of, without trying to sound too, I don't know, full of myself and all of us, we're kind of pioneers in this whole thing. If you look back at the other major struggles for civil rights and equality, it's the pioneers who, get the majority of the shit. You look at the way women are treated now versus how the flappers were treated in the 1920s. All of the stuff that the media wrote about flappers in the 1920s, you could substitute flapper for transgender, and it would sound exactly like the stuff that the right wing is saying today. It's interesting, and that's one of the important things about knowing and understanding history, is that you can see those parallels, and you can realize that these stupid, ignorant beliefs have been going, they've been a constant. And when you look at women and their struggles for equality back then, and even all the way up through now, you, whomever you are, can draw strength from that. Same thing with black people, African Americans in the 50s and 60s. Rosa Parks, I learned about her in school because it was important. She made a big step, a leap, and it took courage. And I personally draw a lot of strength from that. Go seek this stuff out. Videos of black men sitting at the quote-unquote white counters, having things thrown at them, having police standing over them and hitting them with things. And they went through so much. And some things were achieved. There's still, this fight has not ended. It just seems to be continuing because these same ignorant mentalities have been constantly reinforced by politicians, by the good old boys club, by conservatives, quote unquote. They conserve nothing, really. And it's just, there's a certain subset of society, the right wing and things like that, who want to take away everything that's been achieved for minorities, because they want to have that power over us again. They don't like the idea of losing that power. That's why they deem us a threat, because they can't bully us into the closet anymore, So, yeah, it's vitally important to know history because it can actually help you. It can give you perspective, and it can help you, it can give you strength. And that's in part why I make these videos. This is intensely personal stuff, but I put it out there so that people like me can go, oh, wow, I'm not the only one, and for cis people who can go, oh, wow, well, that sounds really tough, oh, gee, well, maybe these people aren't so bad after all, and or whatever, I'm not making money off of it. I don't really, I don't see any need to, you know. Um, I'm just trying to help, you know. And if I have to absorb a little shit now and then, and if I have to feel like I'm a little naked, then so be it, you know. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful, useful maybe, um, and share it. You know, if you're trans, maybe share it because it might help someone else. You know, I don't know. I mean, maybe it won't help at all, but you know, I would rather do something than you know. Um, I really just want to help as the most amount of people as possible. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.